Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. If you like what you hear today, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We're diving into these crazy energy bills that have been hitting everyone's wallets lately, and specifically what's been going on with Eversource in Massachusetts.
Yeah, it's been a tough situation. A lot of folks are feeling the pressure and wondering what's behind these price hikes.
Exactly. So let's start with a real life story. This guy, Elijah D'Souza from New Bedford, opened his energy bill and was like, hold on a second, this doesn't seem right.
Oh, yeah, I've heard similar stories. People are noticing these big differences between what they're paying for the actual energy and then what they're being charged for delivery.
And D'Souza started digging deeper, comparing his supply charges to the delivery fees, and realized something was off.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are seeing. Like, you might pay just a few bucks for the actual gas, but then bam, you get hit with a delivery charge of like 20 bucks or more.
It's crazy, right? And it gets even worse. Some folks are finding that their supply costs are a couple $100s, but then their delivery fee is almost double that.
It's no wonder people are frustrated.
I mean, D'Souza found one case where the supply charge was $374 and the delivery fee was a whopping $776.
Wow, that's rough.
Yeah, it's hitting people hard, especially those who are on fixed incomes. Imagine having to choose between heating your home and buying groceries. It's a real struggle for many.
Absolutely. It's putting people in a tough spot.
So D'Souza decided to take action. He wanted to know if others were experiencing the same thing, so he went online to see what people were saying.
And I bet he found a lot of people in the same boat.
You bet he wasn't alone. He ended up creating a Facebook group called Citizens Against Eversource as a way for customers to connect and try to figure out what was going on with these bills.
No, it makes sense. It's a platform for people to voice their concerns and share those crazy bill comparisons. It's definitely bringing attention to the issue.
For sure. So now we need to look at what Eversource is saying about all of this. Their spokesman, William Hinkle, points to a couple of things. One is the increase in energy usage, which, with the cold weather we've been having, it's understandable.
Right. It takes more energy to keep your house warm when it's freezing outside. Even if you keep your thermostat at the same temperature, you'll probably use more energy overall.
Makes sense. And Hinkle explained that the amount of energy we use can fluctuate based on the outside temperature. So even if you're trying to conserve energy, your bill might still go up just because it's colder.
It's like a hidden factor that can affect your bill.
But that's not the whole story, because Eversource also adjusted their rates back in November, and that resulted in a significant jump in bills, somewhere between 20 and 30%, depending on where you live.
So even without using more energy, people were already hit with higher prices just because of those rate changes.
Yeah, it's like a double whammy. And here's where it gets really interesting. Hinkle also mentioned these state energy efficiency programs like Mass Save. More people are using them, which is a good thing, right?
You'd think so, right? Saving energy should mean lower costs.
But it's actually leading to higher delivery charges for everyone.
Wait, really? How does that work?
Okay, so as more people participate in these programs and use less energy, the portion of the delivery rate that's associated with those programs actually goes up. So even if you're not in Mass Save, you're still sharing those program costs, and that shows up in your delivery charges.
So it's like this hidden cost that's spread out among all the customers.
Exactly. And to make things even more complicated, the cost of the energy itself, like the actual gas, is not fixed. Eversource adjusts that price whenever there's a change of more than 5% in a month. And guess what happened in January?
Gas prices went up.
You got it. Gas costs jumped up, which meant another price increase kicked in on February 1st.
So we've got this combination of factors, the colder weather leading to higher energy usage, those rate adjustments from November, the impact of these energy efficiency programs, and the fluctuating gas prices. It's like a perfect storm.
It really is. To get a clear picture of what's going on, we need to bring in some expert analysis.
Definitely. We need some insights to help us make sense of all of this.
Right. So Kyler Murray, the Director of State Program Implementation at the Acadia Center, which is a clean energy think tank, he points out that a huge chunk of those delivery fees is going towards maintaining the gas pipeline network.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. It's a massive system of pipes that needs constant upkeep and repairs.
And it's not a cheap endeavor.
Definitely not. And it's not something that's going to get any cheaper anytime soon.
Unfortunately not. And Murray is actually advocating for a bigger conversation about moving away from gas heating altogether. He argues that in the long run, it's the best way to reduce our energy costs and make our energy system more sustainable.
That's a big shift, though. It would require a lot of changes.
It definitely would, but it's something to consider as we move forward. We'll dive deeper into that topic later in our conversation.
I'm interested to hear more about that. It's clear that these rising energy bills are creating real hardship for people and sparking a lot of debate about what we should do about our energy system.
Absolutely. It's a complex issue with a lot of moving parts, but we're here to break it down and explore the different perspectives.
It's important to have these discussions and figure out how to create a more affordable and sustainable energy future for everyone.
I completely agree. Stay tuned because we're going to continue this conversation and explore some potential solutions.
Looking forward to it. It's worth noting that Eversource is actually encouraging people who are struggling to pay their bills to reach out for assistance.
Yeah, that's good to hear. They're offering some help, which is definitely important given the situation.
Right. They want to keep their customers happy, and they understand that people are having a tough time.
So they've got these phone numbers you can call 866-861-6225 or 800-688-6160. Pretty easy to remember.
And if you prefer to go online, they also have a website. You can visit eversource.com/billhelp. That's where you can find information about their assistance programs and payment plans.
Oh, that's helpful. And they're also doing these free webinars on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 2 p.m. They'll walk you through the different bill assistance programs and payment options they have available.
Webinars can be a great way to get more detailed information and ask questions directly.
Definitely. It's a step in the right direction. At least they're acknowledging the problem and trying to offer some relief.
While it's good that they're offering these resources, it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a bigger issue. These programs help with affordability in the short term, but they don't address the root cause of the problem, the high cost of gas heating itself.
That brings us back to what Kyler Murray was talking about, the need to move away from gas heating. If we're going to do that, we need to figure out what the alternatives are.
That's the big question, right? There are a few options out there, each with its own pros and cons.
Let's break it down. What are some of the possibilities?
Well, one that's been getting a lot of attention is electrification. Basically, it means switching from gas-powered stuff to electric. So instead of a gas furnace, you'd have an electric heat pump, and instead of a gas water heater, you'd have an electric one.
So we'd be relying more on electricity for things like heating and hot water instead of natural gas. What are the benefits of that?
Well, for one thing, it's good for the environment. We'd be using less fossil fuels and lowering our greenhouse gas emissions, which is super important for tackling climate change.
That's a huge plus. And what about the cost? Would it actually save people money in the long run?
Potentially, yes. Electric appliances can be more energy efficient, which could lead to lower bills down the line.
So it's a win-win for the planet and our wallets, but I'm sure there are challenges too. What are some of the obstacles to electrification?
One of the biggest hurdles is the upfront cost. Switching out a gas furnace for an electric heat pump can be expensive. Not everyone can afford that kind of investment.
That's a good point. And what about our electrical grid? Can it even handle everyone suddenly switching to electric everything?
That's another challenge. If we all go electric at the same time, our current grid might not be able to keep up. We'd need to invest in upgrading our electrical infrastructure to support that kind of demand.
So it's not just a simple flip of a switch, it's a major undertaking.
Exactly. It's a complex process, but many experts believe that electrification is essential for creating a more sustainable and affordable energy system.
It's a big shift, but it could have huge benefits down the road. Are there any other alternatives worth considering?
There are a couple more. We could look into geothermal heating and cooling, which uses the Earth's constant temperature to heat and cool your home.
That sounds pretty cool. How does that work?
It's a proven technology. It's very energy efficient and eco-friendly, but the downside is that it can be quite expensive to install.
So it might not be accessible to everyone right now. What else is out there?
Another option is solar thermal energy, which uses solar panels to heat water for your home. It's a great way to use renewable energy, but again, the initial cost can be a barrier.
It seems like cost is a common thread here. It's the biggest obstacle for a lot of these alternative heating solutions.
It is, and that's why we need policies and incentives to make these technologies more affordable and accessible to a wider range of people.
We need to make it easier for people to go green without breaking the bank.
Exactly, and we also need to keep investing in research and development to find even better and more affordable solutions in the future.
So it's a multifaceted approach, technology, policy, financial support, all working together.
It's a complex issue for sure, but there are a lot of smart people working on it.
And hopefully they can come up with some solutions that work for everyone. So we've covered a lot of ground here. What are some of the key takeaways for our listeners?
The main point is that our energy system is at a turning point. The way we've been doing things, relying so heavily on fossil fuels like gas, it's not sustainable in the long run. And we're seeing the results: high energy bills, climate change, and concerns about energy security.
Those are some serious issues.
They are, and that's why it's so important to explore and adopt alternative energy solutions.
This shift away from gas heating isn't just about saving money on our bills. It's about creating a more sustainable and resilient energy future for everyone.
It's about investing in technologies and policies that benefit both the planet and our wallets.
And it's about making sure that everyone has access to affordable and reliable energy, no matter their income or where they live.
It's about creating a more equitable and just energy system.
Couldn't agree more. It's a challenging transition, but it's an investment in a better future.
The sooner we start making those investments, the better off we'll be.
Well said. Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. We've talked about the technology and the policies, but I'm also interested in the human side of this transition.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you mean?
We're talking about switching to electric appliances, adopting new technologies. But how do we get people on board with these changes? How do we change the way people think about energy and encourage them to make more energy-conscious choices?
That's a really good point. It's not enough to just have these technologies available. We need to educate people about the benefits and address any concerns they might have.
We need to create a culture of energy conservation and make it easier for people to make sustainable choices.
That's going to require effective communication, community engagement, and maybe even some creative incentives. You know, going back to D'Souza's story, it's those price discrepancies between the energy itself and the delivery charges that really got me thinking.
Yeah, they're pretty shocking. When you see those numbers, you can't help but wonder if the system is even fair.
Exactly. It raises questions about transparency and how these costs are actually calculated.
Right. People need to understand how their bills are being determined. If you don't get it, how can you make informed decisions about your energy usage or advocate for change?
Transparency is so important. It's about empowering people to control of their energy choices.
Absolutely. So while we're working towards those bigger systemic changes, what can people do right now to try to manage their energy costs?
Well, there are definitely things you can do to be more energy efficient in your home. It might seem small, but it can really add up.
Like what? Give us some practical tips.
Start with the basics, seal up any drafty windows or doors, add insulation where you can. Upgrading to energy efficient appliances can also make a big difference.
It's all about being more mindful of how we're using energy. Even something as simple as adjusting your thermostat a few degrees can have an impact over time.
Exactly. You can lower it a bit at night or when you're out of the house. Every little bit helps. And of course, if you're really struggling to pay your bills, don't hesitate to reach out to Eversource or look into local assistance programs.
Right, there are resources available to help people who are facing financial hardship don't suffer in silence.
So we've covered a lot of ground today. We started with those crazy energy bills, explored the reasons behind the rising costs, and delved into some potential solutions for a more sustainable energy future.
And it's all connected. The choices we make about energy today have lasting impacts on everyone.
Absolutely. It's about staying informed, engaging in these important conversations, and pushing for the kind of energy future we want to see.
And remember, even small actions can make a difference.
Every step we take towards a more sustainable energy system is a step in the right direction.
Well said. Well, that wraps up our conversation for today. Thanks for joining me.
It was great to be here. Thanks for having me.
And to all our listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. We hope this has given you some food for thought and maybe even inspired you to take action.
Until next time, stay curious and stay engaged.